Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chorizo Bros. This is Joseph back at it again with yet another book review. So we're going to be talking about the next book in the Charles Bukowski series. I'm not doing these in any particular order. I'm just kind of reading them as I go, finding which one I want to read next. There's not like a chronological thing that I'm doing here or order of publication, anything like that. It more so seems to be that I'm looking at the books, picking which one I feel like, and just going from there. So there's no really rhyme or reason to any of this approach. It's more so that I started with Ham on Rye and enjoyed the crap out of that book, if you guys saw my review on that. And I was like, well, what's the next one? I landed on Factotum. That's the one we're going to be talking about today, guys. So settle in, pour yourself a drink, have a cigarette, maybe put your earphones in and listen to this video at the bar, because sure enough, that's where Charles would want you to be. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Factotum by Charles Bukowski. For those of you that have read Ham on Rye, that was chronologically the first book in the Henry Chinaski Bukowski novel series. It is Henry Chinaski, who's Bukowski's alter ego, growing up as a boy and then adolescent, teenager, and then young adult. Factotum is the story after that. So I guess the way it worked was he'd done Post Office right before this, and this is sort of supposed to serve as a prequel to that book. I'm not sure where his novel Women, fits in on this, but Factotum is definitely after Ham on Rye. So this one, I happened to catch my eye. I forgot that it had the movie poster printed on the front, which I really dislike. But the spine of it, I was like, oh, that kind of red color, whatever. It just made me pick it up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this one next. At some point, we're going to be bringing Chris. Should currently be reading Ham on Rye, and I think Brandon too. Brandon's going to jump in on that, and we're going to do a not necessarily a book discussion, but a talking about who Charles Bukowski was and what an insane artist he's been. So that's going to be a really fun one. But today we're going to be talking about this one, right? One of the first things I noticed, of course, is the age difference. So when we're going through Ham on Rye and you're seeing some of these scenes play out, and it's a young man, it's a boy, it's a teenager, and all these things are happening, and he's sort of reacting to it in a dejected, sort of sad way. It's understandable because it's that feeling of angst that comes with being a young person. Factotum takes that sadness, that poignancy. It's like equal parts hilarious and depressing. It's not even like it's like funny because of how sad and depressing it is. And you get the vibe that's kind of who Bukowski was he was just trying to find the funny side of these sort of desperate and sad situations. And his attitude on it is not unlike how it was in Ham on Rye. His attitude of sort of feeling like he doesn't understand the people around him, and it's a bit sad to like realize it's kind of different kind of sadness, but it's a bit sad to realize that feeling he had as an angsty, teenager and young man didn't go anywhere. It followed him his whole life, and all the way probably until his death. Obviously, anybody that knows a little bit about Charles Bukowski, he had a long-term struggle with alcoholism, and you can see some of that displayed through his alter ego character Henry Chinaski, right? So this one is he wasn't able to be drafted for World War II, so he's kind of meandering. He's meandering around the United States a little bit in LA, and he's just picking up random jobs, getting fired from them because he's going and wandering off and hanging out at the bar, or meeting a lady and leaving, and it's just this constant thing, right? So that's what a factotum is, by the way. I had to look that up. I was like, what the hell? What does this word mean? Because it's such an archaic kind of word. It's not really something you're going to use in regular conversation, right? It's a person having many diverse activities or responsibilities, or an employee that has a lot of responsibilities. So That definitely defines this novel a great bit. It is very much him kind of going through these different stages of working and not really finding any happiness or any purpose in any of these jobs. But he consistently is writing and trying to get published. So that's kind of like an ongoing thing. That's like the one thing that's the same throughout, aside from the fact that his jobs and his relationships with women, they sort of seem to be cyclical. So he'll get a new job and then he'll get fired from that, and then um, he'll meet a lady who happens to be like a barfly. So she's like one of the ladies that hangs out at the joints he frequents, and they're they're all like in the same class. They're all obviously Bukowski sees himself as an artist, and Chinaski does too. So he's got this sort of he has to look at the world through this lens of being an artist, being a poet. And when he meets these women, he sort of respects them as much as he respects himself, which doesn't seem to be very much on the whole. Aside from that, he separates himself by that artistry. So there's a lot of like scummy things that are going on in here, and again, there's that 50% sadness and that 50% humor, because some of this stuff had me laughing out loud. There's a scene in here where he's hanging out with a lady, Jan, and he gets fired from his jobs constantly, so they never have any money, and he's like, why don't you make some breakfast or whatever? And she's like, well, I don't have any, I don't know if it's oil or eggs or something. And he's like, um, just whatever, just make it. So she's like complaining that she has to make these um, pancake batter with no oil. So it's just like raw dogging pancake batter on a fucking skillet, and just like how horrible it is. And it's just, something about that is really funny to me, even though it's like, you're supposed to feel bad for them for being in this, financially desperate situation, but then just being like, well, at least I got my jug of cheap wine, and I'll be able to cure my hangover with that, and just eat crusty, messed up pancakes. I don't know why that's so funny to me, and that's kind of like how this is. There's at one point, he's complaining about his routine waking up and being kind of hungover, so he like goes and like throws up because his stomach hurts, and like he looks down and his boxer shorts are stained, and it's just so trashy. And you feel bad for these ladies that he meets because he doesn't treat them very well, and they're not very nice to him either. That's part of it too. There's a part where he becomes sort of a small time bookie with some of the guys that he works with, and he sort of finagles a way to get out of work early. Like, if we leave now, if we clock out now, we can go hit the races. And then he'll tell the guys the next day, oh, your horse didn't win or whatever, but he was always just doing it to steal money from them, which is, again, ridiculous and so funny. It'll be punctuated with like these sort of really profound moments. So it would just be this like jackassery the whole time. It's just, got fired from here. Yeah, I was I just walked off my job and went to the bar. Oh, I really hated that job, so I started going to the racetrack. So it's like this constant like buffoonery with that, and then it would be just like intersected with these like little moments where you go, man, I really like that line. I really like that paragraph. This is like, you can tell he's being very thoughtful about sort of the state of the country and the state of, who he is. It's a little bit smaller than Ham on Rye, and I'm going to have to revisit Post Office and Women and see where this kind of falls on it. Ham on Rye, I liked a little better than this one. Um, but yeah, it was great fun. It was a lot to think about. I'm probably going to read a couple of lines out of it so you guys can see kind of what his vibe is. How in the hell could a man enjoy being awakened at 6:30 a.m. by an alarm clock? Leap out of bed, dress, force feed, shit, piss, brush teeth and hair, and fight traffic to get to a place where essentially you made lots of money for somebody else and were asked to be grateful for the opportunity to do so. Really like that line. I think everybody can relate to it. Everybody can relate to, maybe sitting in traffic or something and just being like, why the fuck am I doing this? Yeah, I am making money for somebody else and supposed to be glad that I just have a job. That was December 24th. There were to be drinks, food, music, dancing. I didn't like parties. I didn't know how to dance, and people frightened me, especially people at parties. They attempted to be sexy and gay and witty, and although they hoped they were good at it, they weren't. They were bad at it. Their trying so hard only made it worse. So yeah, this is a couple of lines out of there. Again, it's very funny, and there's like all those moments where these ridiculous things are happening, and these interesting friendships and relationships he gets into, and then there's just like these lines where it's like, damn, dude, I really felt that. And it's not trying necessarily to be like poetic. The prose um isn't flowery in any way. These sentences are very easy to digest and very easy to read, and that's part of the appeal of Mr. Bukowski's writing. I think his poetry is a little bit tougher, but all of his novels that I have read, and again, this is like a rereading thing for the show. They've all been very very chill, very relaxing things. It's not really asking you to do a whole lot of heavy lifting in terms of like interpreting or coming off of reading Huckleberry Finn and trying to modernize in my head what the written way that Jim speaks, or some of the really like Southern way of talking, being like, okay, what is he actually saying? And that's a little bit of heavy lifting on our part as a reader, and Bukowski doesn't really have that. It's very easy to read. There might be some stuff that's just a little bit antiquated in terms of like when this was published, 1975. So some of that is going to be, it's going to definitely read like that, but it's not difficult. This is very much, it's like a dad book. I think that my dad's not a huge reader, but I think if I were to be like, hey, read this, you'll think it's funny or whatever, that he would knock it out and we would just have a laugh about it. And that these kinds of books have their places, and I think I'm going to enjoy reading the next thing. And that's pretty much it, guys. This is a, like, I don't know, let's call it a 4 out of 5. Ham on Rye was a little bit higher. This is not as good as that, but definitely still a really enjoyable read, and I'm excited to see what the next books are going to bring. They did do a movie. I kind of mentioned that when I was complaining about the cover. I think I made a big deal about this on The Road, on my copy of The Road, having Viggo Mortensen on front of it, just being like, I really don't like when they do that. That's still true. But they did do a movie in 2005 with Matt Dillon and Marissa Tomei and Lily Taylor, whom I'm not as familiar with. And I think I did see the movie. It's okay. It really does capture the spirit of the novel. It almost felt a little bit amateurish, and I think that was kind of what they were going for. I don't know. I'd have to bounce this concept off of somebody else. Anything with Marissa Tomei, we're good. But yeah, it was cool to see some of the tone. Matt Dillon really hits that sort of, oh, I don't really care, that kind of vibe. He really gets that because Matt Dillon, you can tell, is an intelligent guy, and he knows how to hit the humorous notes for our character Henry. So he did a pretty fantastic job, and the ladies too. Lily Taylor, who plays Jan, she really nailed that performance, sort of being on par with him and sort of holding him to like a certain standard sometimes, but then other times, you know, she gets in on the buffoonery, and there's a part where they're in bed, and the fire department is going to do what looks like put out a fire down the hallway, and I guess all the noise wakes them up, and Henry goes to see what's happening. He opens the hallway and sees the fire department out there, and she's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Ah, it must be a fire." And they just like go back to bed. So there's not any like, there's just they're both very good at getting that like fuck it attitude, and that does happen in the book as well. But like that sort of nonchalant, like, my hangover hurts too much, whatever, like, I'll deal with it later kind of attitude. Both of them hit that really well. So, that's very cool. But yeah, I think that's where we're at, guys. The next thing we're going to be doing is when Jeremy, Art, and I get back together, we're going to be doing Larry McMurtry's Dead Man's Walk, I think is what it's called. We're going to be talking about the miniseries they did and the book itself. And so we're going to kind of rehash our beginning of the channel with our Lonesome Dove discussion. So that's going to be real fun. I've got Arian and Brandon knocking out James as we speak. So the three of us are going to do a Huckleberry Finn James sort of discussion. That one's going to be a really fun episode, I think. And then at some point, Brandon and Chris are going to be helping me do some sort of Charles Bukowski related video. So we've got some stuff. I feel like it's been a minute since I've gotten on camera and kind of discussed some books with you guys. But I have been knocking out book after book after book. So I haven't been, wasting any time on that. But knocking out Huckleberry Finn and then James like right after that, and then Larry McMurtry and waiting for the guys to get caught up on that. Like I have been busy with the books, nose deep in them, as it were. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to bring the new book, the next thing that I'm going to do just for us two, and that's going to be a fun one too. We'll get there when we get there, but I think this video might be running a little bit long for a little discussion about Charles Bukowski book. So on that note, I'm going to let you guys get out of here. Leave some comments, leave some likes, subscribe if you wish. Thank you again so much.